What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Living My channel, where I talk to you about how I'm living my American dream. So today, I want to talk to you about attracting that special person. Whether it's a woman trying to get a man, man trying to get a woman, whatever your flavor is. I want to talk to you about this because as you try to build this American dream, attracting the right person to you can be a big part of that. Now, some of you may want to stay single forever, and that's perfectly fine. I know there's a lot of people doing that. But for those of you who do want a partner, it's important that A, you attract the right partner, but more importantly, that you learn ways to attract that person to you. Now, these are things that I started thinking about more and more after my divorce. Some of you may know I am a divorcee. I was married for 13 years. Made 2 videos about that recently. Well, actually one 2 years ago, follow-up one recently. I'll link those up above so you can watch those. Now remember, after my divorce, I was in my early 30s, 32, 33 years old. And after having been married for 13 years, together for 15, entering this world of dating was a whole new experience for me because I hadn't dated as an adult. My ex and I were together from high school all the way to our almost mid-30s. So dating as an adult was a new experience for me, and I had to learn how to navigate some of those things. So those are things that I had to think about, and as I was going through that process, I remember talking to my younger brother about it and telling him some of the things that I was learning going through this process, because at the time, he was only 20 years old. And so I kind of wanted to give him some guidance as he entered adulthood. So I'm going to give you 4 quick tips that are, I think, pretty obvious but simple. And at the end, I'm going to give you what I think are 3 very key tips that, in my opinion, made things a whole lot easier for me to be able to attract women that I was interested in. So stick around for those 3. All right, so the first quick tip, you got to have clear expectations from the start. Now, I remember after my divorce thinking, I know that second and follow-on marriages have a higher likelihood, a higher chance of ending up in divorce. So one of my biggest fears, and honestly still is one of my biggest fears, is being a second-time divorcee. I also knew that a lot of people rush from one marriage and divorce right into the next one. And more often than not, that's a recipe for disaster. So knowing all these things, and from watching podcasts and videos like this and reading books and doing some research, I knew that I needed some time for myself before I was ready to start engaging in serious relationships again. At the same time, after a little while from being separated from my ex, I also knew that I wanted somebody to spend some time with, share some experiences with, and somebody to be intimate with. But again, I didn't want a serious relationship. So I remember thinking, how am I going to find somebody who is willing to date me but doesn't want a serious relationship? But I also didn't want to go into a relationship, however short it may be, with a lie. So I made my expectations very clear from the start. And surprisingly enough, I guess it's not surprising anymore, but at the time it was very surprising, is that there's plenty of people out there with the same kind of thoughts in mind. And it's not always divorcees or anything like that, just different people in different stages of life, different goals, who maybe are not looking for a long committed relationship right away. So I was able to have a few short-term relationships with very clear expectations. And because we had those clear expectations from the start, when things ended for whatever reason, we were able to stay amicable. Some of those ladies I was friends with for years after, because there was no bad blood, no animosity between us when things ended. Again, because there was clear expectations from the start. The second quick tip that I'll give you is that you've got to be confident. Now, I know this can be difficult, something that takes practice, and whether it's through your work, whatever, there's different things that can give you confidence. So this can be difficult, I get that. But you've got to find ways to build up your confidence. Because if you go into a relationship or a conversation with someone else and you're nervous, timid, stuttering over your words because you don't know what to say, that's not going to keep somebody interested. Now, this doesn't mean you're not going to be able to get anybody. There's plenty of timid people out there, people that are maybe nervous, lack a little bit of confidence, self-esteem, that still get relationships. So it's not impossible, but if you want to increase your odds or your chances of attracting someone else, you need to have a little bit of confidence. You've got to believe that you deserve to be with the person that it is that you're trying to attract. So that's a big one. The third one I'll give you is you've got to learn to express your emotions. Now, I've made a couple videos about how it can be difficult for men to express our emotions, and I'll link those videos above so you can watch them. But if you want to be in a committed relationship, and these tips that I'm giving you, they're not, if you just want to be a player and all this, this is not for you. These tips that I'm giving you is if you want to be in a serious relationship, a committed relationship, a solid, healthy, emotionally stable relationship, you've got to be able to express emotions. Now, that's not easy. And if you watch the videos that I linked above, you'll understand what I mean. I know it's not easy, especially in this society where they tell us men have to be tough and men don't cry and men don't show pain and all these things. I get it. It's not easy. But again, if you want to be able to connect with this person of the opposite sex, whether it's a man, woman, or otherwise, you've got to be able to express those emotions. You've got to be able to share with each other what's going on in your minds and in your hearts. All right, the fourth quick tip that I'm going to give you, and I'm honestly surprised that I even have to say this. And again, this isn't something I even knew was an issue until I started dating in my mid-30s. So it's kind of weird to me, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you're going to share photos with somebody, they should be appropriate. Now, what appropriate means, it can vary from maybe you're sharing photos in a nice dress or a nice suit and tie, or maybe you're sharing naked photos. So it can be the whole gamut. So what I say by appropriate is appropriate for the stage of the relationship that you're in. I cannot believe that there are men out there sending pictures of their genitalia to random women on the internet. Somebody they just met on Tinder or any of the other apps out there. Or they start dating somebody and after the first, second date, they're sending pictures of their genitals. Again, if you're into that, hey, you do you. It's a big wide world. You're probably going to find somebody that is going to be into the kind of stuff that you are. But I will tell you from speaking with women and reading stuff online and all my wife now tells me, most women are not going to be into that. Not early in the relationship. Now, once you've been together for a while, maybe dating for a few months or something like that, maybe that's appropriate. Maybe your significant other is into that and they'll want those photos, so they'll even ask for them. But don't just be sending those photos randomly without being asked for them, because a lot of times you're going to come off as like a pervert and disrespectful. All right, so now I'm going to give you the 3 tips that for me were critical. And I think, yes, they were critical for me, but I think they're key for any relationship. So if you really want to attract somebody of the opposite sex, or not just the opposite sex, if you want to attract somebody, these 3 things can make a big difference. First one, be respectful. This is another one of those that I'm surprised I even have to say it, but I have to say it. If you are flirting with somebody and they're not interested, don't become an a-hole immediately and say, oh, well, you're not even that hot anyway. Or, I've got better things to do. I wasn't really going to waste my time with you. Don't start saying those things because you come off as petty. You come off as, I hate to say it, but you come off as a loser. You don't know how to take rejection. Learn to take rejection. If you're going to go after somebody that you want to be with, it's not always going to work out. There are going to be, especially if it's a numbers game for you where, you're going to flirt with 10 different women at a bar or something like that, expect that 6 of them are not going to be interested. And it may not have anything to do with your looks or your approach or anything like that. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe they're already in a relationship. Maybe they're just not interested because they're not looking for a relationship. Whatever the case may be, you've got to learn to accept rejection. And when you're rejected, be cordial. It's not that hard. Be cordial. I cannot believe, or I was surprised when I first started dating in my 30s and women would tell me like, oh my God, you're so nice, and oh my God, you treat me so well, and this and that. And I remember thinking like, this is just normal stuff. I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary. I'm not like flying you in private jets and all these things. Like, I'm just being a nice guy, which I thought was the norm, but apparently it's not. So if you want to attract somebody, be nice to them, be cordial, be respectful. Don't mistreat them, insult them, and do all these things, because if they did that to you, you probably would not be attracted to them. So be respectful. The second one, what is your job? And so here's the thing. When I say what is your job, so it kind of goes with what's your job, education, and salary. Now, there may be, let's say, a guy and a woman, okay? There may be a woman who wants to be a stay-at-home mom and a housewife. But if she wants that, more often than not, or more than likely, she's going to want a husband who's able to support them, take care of the family. Now, I know there's going to be some of you out there, especially the men, that are going to say, oh, well, women only want a man that makes money and a man with status. And sure, there's women out there like that. I'm sure there's men out there like that too. There's guys out there marrying their little sugar mamas. But you got to understand, if you're a stay-at-home spouse, man or woman, if you're a stay-at-home spouse, you've got to have somebody you can count on to take care of things. Somebody that can pay the bills. Somebody that's going to keep you out of debt. Somebody that's going to give you a stable, safe environment. If you don't have that, you're going to be filled with fear. So it's completely understandable for somebody to want to find a spouse that has a good job with a steady income. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, let's say that she doesn't want to be a stay-at-home wife. Let's say that she's a working professional. And that's becoming more and more the norm, because women are coming into their own over the last few decades. Still a long ways to go, but there's more and more women out there who don't want to be just a stay-at-home mom, who want to pursue other things outside of the house. Well, here's the thing. A lot of those women are not going to want a husband who is a stay-at-home spouse. Now, there's some that do, and that's fine. But that's not always the case. And just because they want somebody who's at their level is not a bad thing. You shouldn't look at them and say, oh, well, she's too stuck up. Or she thinks she's too good for me, or too good for men, or too good for society, or whatever. No, she has worked very hard to achieve what she's got, going to school, getting a great job, making a good salary, taking care of herself, traveling, going out with her girlfriends. And now she wants somebody that complements that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you've got to understand that. So if you're going for a woman who wants to stay at home, you need to do your part. And this is for either sex. If your spouse wants to stay at home, take care of the children, take care of the house and all that stuff, you've got to do your part to provide a good living for them. If you're going for somebody who is high status in some way, whether it's job, salary, whatever the case may be, expect that they might want somebody who's at the same level as them, same high status as them. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you are trying to go somebody who's incompatible with you in that sense, and you're not understanding why, then you're not going to be able to attract that person. If you're going for, say you're a man and you're going for a woman who's a lawyer making $150,000 a year, and maybe you're somebody who doesn't manage their finances well, doesn't have a steady job, bounces from job to job, that woman might not be interested in you because you seem unreliable, you don't seem stable, you don't seem like you're on the level that she's at. So you need to figure out for yourself, what's my job, what's my salary, what's my education? This is not to say that you need to go to get a master's degree, PhD, or that you need to be making $150,000 a year or any of that stuff. There's all different levels, but for each level, there's somebody that's going to be compatible to that. So figure out what are the things that are important to you, and how do you find somebody that is compatible on that level. All right, the third and final big tip that, again, was big for me, may not be big for you, but it was big for me, is your physical appearance. And hear me out. First of all, we have to understand that, especially here in America, we tend to be very shallow, okay? That's not always the case, but we do tend to be very shallow. Now, if you want an attractive partner, you have to think for yourself, what am I doing to make myself as attractive as possible? Now, again, a lot of you may disagree, because I don't want this to seem like I'm saying you should be shallow or you should only be going for attractive people. There's different levels of attractiveness. I'm not here telling you that I believe that I'm this like hunk of a man. I know there's plenty of men out there better looking than me, and that's fine. I'm okay with who I am. But at the same time, it's important to me as an individual to be my best self. I take care of myself, I exercise, I eat well, because I want to feel good about myself. And not only do I want to feel good about myself and the way that I look and the way that I carry myself, but by doing that, I'm also attracting a woman that is hopefully doing the same thing. So if I want a woman who's taking care of herself, who eats well, who exercises and does these kinds of things, I need to be doing that as well. It always drives me a little crazy when I see men that are, attracted to these women that are doing these things, that are fit and eating well and all these things. But then they're spending their time on the couch, drinking beer and all this, and they're frustrated when these women are not paying them any attention. And it might be the same way for women going after men or whatever. If you want a certain kind of person, you have to reflect on yourself. Am I that certain kind of person? Don't expect somebody else to be doing something or to do something or be somebody that you can't be yourself. So your physical condition, your personal appearance, not just your looks, but the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, your demeanor, all of these things that make up your external persona. We're not talking about like what's inside you, but the exterior. What am I putting out into the world? These things that you put out there are going to attract the same back. And you have to understand that. You have to know what kind of people are going to be on your level. Again, increasing your odds of being able to get that kind of person. Another thing that frustrates me is when I see people who end a relationship, whether it's dating, engagements, marriages, and you see them and all of a sudden they're single and they start exercising and losing weight and doing all these things to better themselves. Now, first of all, that's great that people do that because it's going to give them some confidence, it's going to make them feel good about themselves, it's going to put them in a better place. However, my question is, why weren't you doing that when you were in the relationship? Because I'm talking to you about how to attract the person, right? But when you attract that person and they become your partner, all of these tips that I'm giving you are things you have to continue doing. So if you were somebody who was into fitness, somebody who was fit, somebody who took care of themselves, showered often, wore good clothes, if you were doing those things when you attracted this person, don't stop doing them just because now you're married and you've got kids and you've got jobs and life gets busy. Because when you do that, that initial attraction that maybe drew that person to you is going to start to fade. Now, you shouldn't do this just for somebody else. So please don't think I'm saying stay in shape and all these things just for somebody else. You should do it for yourself. You should do it so that you feel good about the kind of person that you are. You should do it so that you're healthy and can live a long, happy American dream, a long, happy life. So you should do it for you. But understand that by doing these things for yourself, you're going to help attract the kind of person that matches that. And when you attract them, you're going to help, or it's going to help keep that person attracted to you. So those are the last three big things. Again, be respectful. Think about what kind of job, salary, and education you have. And think about your personal appearance. Those three things are going to make a huge difference in attracting the kind of partner that you're looking for. Now again, my little summary here, these are just generalities, all right? I know I've said this in other videos. Nothing I say is going to apply to every single person out there. There's going to be couples that seem completely incompatible and they work out and they're happy and that's fine. But for most of us, we need compatibility. We need some things that are going to match what we're looking for, and that's going to draw us to it. But at the end of the day, what really matters if you want to attract another person, just be a good person. Be a good person and be yourself. If you try to be fake, eventually that other person is going to see through it and they're not going to be attracted to you. And be a good person. If you're not a good person, you're going to attract the wrong kind of people and you're going to have a lot of drama in your life, a lot of drama in your relationships. All right, guys, hopefully you got something out of this. Again, these were just some things that I learned as I started dating after my divorce. And they really made a big difference for me as I navigated this whole new world that I hadn't experienced as an adult. So hopefully you got something out of this. If you like the video, hit that like button. If you want to see more, Subscribe so you know when I upload the next video. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.